guys, thanks for coming back. This is US Agent 27 from the MUCollectorClub.com forums. Back today with a different type of video. I've had a couple people ask me, what do I do for stands, like specifically flight stands for my Marvel Legend action figures. I take no credit for the original idea. The original idea I think came from JRaNightmare, who's part of the ACBA community, and also the Stashbin, who's another YouTube person who I watched his videos and kind of took some pointers, and I kind of modified it with the materials I had. But anyway, as you can kind of see, I've got two figures. They're up on flight stands. I'm going to back the camera up so you guys can kind of see. They really can make for some really cool dynamic poses. I've got Wonder Man in kind of like a flying pose, and I've got Cap in kind of like a jumping pose. And these can make for some really, really great pictures. So what I'm going to do today is I'm going to show you how I make my own flight stands, and what tools I use, what materials I use. Maybe you guys can either adapt it or kind of copy it. That's fine. If you guys have any questions on any of this, definitely hit me up in the comments, or come find me on MUCollectorClub.com. I'd be more than happy to share with you what I've learned anyway. So I have two different kinds of flight stands. The first kind that, well, before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about flight stands in general. Before, when Toy Biz Marvel Legends came out, we used to get these clear plastic flight stands. They kind of pegged into the back, and these are good. They're okay. I use them for some things, but I like my flight stands and the junior flight stands and Stashbin flight stands much better. And it's really because I can hide them easier in photos. If you get the right angle, you're not going to see the flight stand. So I've got a couple different ways that I've made them. The one that, let me move Cap aside, the one that Wonder Man is on right now, let me take him off the flight stand. This is, if you have ever seen like any kind of construction work where they put the little flags in the ground, that's what this is. This is basically the wire piece that goes into the ground, like that, and then the flag at the top, and I took the flag off, obviously, and then I kind of bent it in kind of like a circular motion, and then pointed this part up, obviously, to stick into the figure. Whenever you're bending these, you want to make sure you get a pretty wide circumference. It's going to help with the stability of the stability of your flight stand. Now, there is a way to cheat with that if you want to do a smaller one, is to basically do a flight stand and then put something on top of this, maybe like debris or tires or anything that you can to hide it and weight it down. It will, and then you can get away with doing a smaller one. So that's one way to do it. Other people have done it with coat hangers. It's basically the same process. I'm going to show you how I kind of go through this, how I bend it. Basically, I start here and I kind of bend around in a circle. So that's one way. The other way to do it, and this is the one that Captain America is up on, is with, oh, see, and he fell down. It's this kind of flight stand. As you can see, it's a lot thicker metal, a lot sturdier. It stands fine on its own. You can get Cap in some really great poses. He'll stand just fine. Alright, this is what I'm going to show you guys how to make today. So we're going to make a couple of these, probably like one, just for the video length, otherwise it's going to be a very, very long video. I'm going to try to do my best to get this all on camera at the time. So what you're going to need to get started with this, a couple of things. You're going to need, I use two pairs of pliers. Here's a basic pair. This is just basically I'm using for the grip. I use another pair like this that has a cutter inside. I'll show you why I use that. These come in very handy, and these are kind of heavy duty, so I definitely am going to use these. You're going to need a file to file down the edges when you're done. And the last and most important piece that you're going to need is actually what we're going to make the flight stand out of. Now, there are a couple different materials you can use. Let me back up the camera a little bit. What I use are these. They are sign stakes. So if you go to like Lowe's or Home Depot and you look where they have like their garage sale signs, look for these, and that's what I use. And I'm going to show you how we're going to kind of do this. And out of this one, as you see, it's quite long, I can get 3 good sized flight stands. I can usually get one small one and then 2 like larger ones. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to kind of, I'm going to show you how I do this. I like these two because they are already in a circular pattern, So it kind of works out very well and very easy for me. So what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to take my pliers, I'm going to make a cut and try to cut and bend right about there. So that when I'm done, this will be one, and then I'll have a nice big ginormous one. And then what I'll do is I'll cut this one again to whatever length I want, and then I'll use this. So all I do is I take the pliers, and the way that these work is I just want to make an indentation, because then I'm going to bend the metal. Now, you could use like a hacksaw or something like that. And I'm just going around kind of crimping, just so I get like a little bit of a cut in the metal. And I don't know if you guys can kind of see that. Basically, there's a little bit of a notch there. Because then what I'm going to do is I'm basically going to bend this until it breaks. I could use a hacksaw to do this. You could use like a, what do you call it? Sorry, I'm trying to do this all at the same time. A Dremel with a blade, that would work too. Let's see if I can get this bent. It's almost there. And then what I do is I just bend it like that. I do some more cuts. This is time consuming. Usually takes me about, 10 or 15 minutes to get everything cut and bent the way I want it. And just work it back and forth until it snaps like that. And now I have one start of a flight stand. So that's one. I'm going to set that one aside because the smaller ones are easy to work with, and I'm going to work with a slightly larger one to kind of show you in the beginning how I do it. Okay, so I'm going to set that one aside. I'm going to do one more cut. And we're going to go ahead and make this kind of a larger flight stand. This will be like for, I don't know, Magneto maybe. And why I have two pairs of pliers is you can bend it with both pairs. Sometimes that will help. Yeah, I'm trying to get this on camera, trying not to bump into my light. There we go. Snapped right off. So now I'm left with a little piece like this. Again, I could easily bend this to make a very, very small flight stand. I can use to just prop up a figure, maybe like Doctor Strange. So now I'm left with this. And there's a couple ways that you can do it. Now, before I show you how I bend it, let me show you one that I've already got finished. And that's this one here. So what I did is I kind of bent that in a circle, and I bent the frame up, and then it just kind of sits. I'm going to do more or less the same thing here. So I'm going to take my wire. I'm just going to straighten this out a little bit so it kind of starts to make a circle like that. I'll worry about flattening it out after I'm done. I'm going to do the same thing here. Straighten it out just a little bit. And then I'm going to pick a spot maybe like right about there. And what I'm going to do is what I do is I put my hand there and I kind of bend up. So it makes kind of like a, like that. Now if you notice let me turn my camera down. It's very wobbly. It doesn't want to stay. So I need to do some adjustments on it, which is fine. And you are going to have to do some adjustments on these. You're going to have to kind of play around to get it how exactly you want it. So like, and the rule with this, I mean, there's no really rules, so to speak. But the way I do it is I try to get the circle part as wide as the character's shoulders I want to support, because that's gonna give me good balance. Now I have it straight on there, but if you can see, it's kind of going to an angle, so I need to kind of bend that back a little bit until I get it right about where I want it, right about there. That looks pretty good. And now what I can do is I can kind of test it. And let me put a character on. Let's try cap. And again, I just do this just to see if I've got the right balance, which I do. So now Captain America is in a giant leaping pose. He's balanced. He he looks good. So I'm pretty much done. The only other thing I'm going to do is, let me take them off, is if this wasn't straight on the bottom, is I would take the pliers and kind of bend towards myself until I got it straight. Now this is pretty straight, so I'm going to leave that alone. What I'm going to do is at the top, this part right here, because where I cut is kind of jagged. I don't know if you guys can kind of see that. So I'm just going to kind of file it down a little bit. I'm not going to go through all the filing process, but I file it down until I get it so it's nice and smooth at the top. There's no jagged edges. The reason why I do that is I don't want to chip the paint on any of my figures. I don't want to ruin my figures. And that's basically all I do with flight stands. So like I said, the materials I use are these sign stakes. These work pretty well. These are 99 cents. So for 99 cents you get 3 flight stands. And just to kind of show you real quick what the small one looks like, you know, you just repeat the process. So what I do is I straighten out this part right here, and then I just bend, I pick a point, I bend this one right about there, and I bend it up. So that when I'm done, I'm left with a smaller flight stand. So I have a larger one and a smaller flight stand, so I can do different types of displays. Maybe Wolverine is jumping up at Magneto or something like that. And that's basically how I do my flight stands. And again, I would do the same thing. I would file down the top. I would make this maybe a little more straight at the bottom, kind of widen it if I needed to. And again, if you use like a coat hanger, like these, not as sturdy, but they will work. I much prefer this metal. It is a little thicker, so if you have a figure that doesn't have any, like this, like I stick it right there between his thigh and his ass, basically. Basically it goes like that, and that's where it holds the figure. If some of the female characters, for example, they don't have that, you have to play around and try to like maybe snake it underneath their hair, underneath their armpit joint, something, just so you can kind of get them on a stand. But once you're done, and if you do it right, you'll have a very dynamic display, and it will look really, really great, so that you can have a figure like that. And I'm going to use this one for this one. And again, you got to find the sweet spot. Every figure is different. Some figures, you know, you can get right in like the leg joint or in the arm joint. Some figures will have like belts and whatnot, like I have with Wonder Man. If you notice, look, he's spinning, he's wobbly. It's a thinner metal, that's why. That's why I like the thicker metal for mine. Alright guys, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. You know, come check us out on mucollectorclub.com, check us out in the forums, and I'll be more than glad to kind of, you know, help answer anything I can. Alright, take it easy guys, and hope you enjoyed the video.